Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Diane and my passion is painting and creating nature-inspired watercolours in my studio, which are easy for you to do too. I share all my paintings with you on YouTube, and on our website dianeantone.com you can find free downloadable sketches for all the videos to help you make the most of your painting journey. And if you'd like a little bit more, we also have channel memberships with loads of perks for you to enjoy. So welcome on board. Click subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's learn to paint watercolour. Hi everyone, Diane here. Welcome to the studio. Hope everyone's well. Today we're going to paint, I think what we're going to paint is we're going to paint some sunflowers surrounding 3 bird houses with birds on. What do you think about that for an idea? I've been backwards and forwards and inside out all morning trying to decide as usual. This is the hardest part about it, is deciding what to do. Anyway, so what I've got here, I'm going to look at some paints first of all before we start to draw this subject that I'm hoping to paint. I've got 3 blues here. This is indigo, this is cobalt blue, and this is ultramarine deep. And I just wanted to show you how little difference it makes, to be quite honest, which blue you use when you're mixing a green. So this is indigo. I always think of indigo as being somewhat darker than that, but anyway, that's what we've got there. And I'm going to mix it with a bit of lemon yellow on the paper here. And you can see that you get a nice grassy green. And that's a little bit of a surprise. I don't think everybody thinks about mixing their greens with indigo necessarily, but I just wanted to point this out for you, that if you don't have the colour that I use, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter a jot. So that's cobalt. We take a little bit of lemon yellow here too, and we're going to mix that together. I need a little bit more yellow. And we get a green. And that green is very similar to that green. Might be a little bit more difficult to mix a darker tone of green, but you just use a bit more paint. And then we've got ultramarine here, which is the one that's going to give you the strongest colour, but still you're going to get pretty much the same thing when you mix it with lemon yellow. You're going to get a very acceptable grassy leaf type green. So there we are. Let's pick a blue and go with that for this particular painting. I'm going to choose indigo today. So the cobalt and the ultramarine can go and have a rest for now. And then I'm going to show you what indigo looks like with quinacridone gold, because that's the other yellow. That's one of the other yellows I'm going to be using. So there's the indigo, and here's quinacridone. And we mix that together and we get a much more, a duller kind of green, which you need if you're going to do grass and leaves and things like that. So you've now got this one, which is more of a bright one. This is a dulled down green. And then the final yellow that we're going to use with the indigo is a cadmium yellow, or one of those warmer yellows that you can get. So this is lemon. That's a cool yellow. And this is a warm yellow. This is Old Holland, I think they call it. Yellow, medium yellow, deep, I don't know, medium yellow, whatever. Scheveningen yellow, that's right. But it's cadmium yellow, really. So we mix that, and we're going to get quite a true green. So we've got 1, 2, 3 different greens there. And so that's what we're going to use mostly for this painting. Those 3 yellows, that one blue, and then probably a touch of this red. This is cadmium red, which gives us our 3 colours, our blue, our yellow, our red, our 3 primaries, from which we can theoretically mix every colour under the sun, every colour in the rainbow, every colour you might reasonably need. I'm going to put some sunflowers in this painting around the edges, and in the middle I'm going to put some birdhouses. So I need plenty of yellow. I'm a bit worried about yellow at the moment because every time I do a painting that's mostly yellow, it's a complete flop. You can tell that if you go and have a look at the daffodils and the lemon tree and the sunflowers that I've done in the past, and the laburnum tree and all the things that I've done in yellow. Nobody wants to watch them at all. They're absolutely, completely hopeless in terms of viewing. Have a look, see what you think. Is there something wrong with the way I use yellow? I would love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below if you've taken a look at one of those paintings and you don't like it for some reason. Do let me know. I'm always looking for improvements in my art. It does seem to be a bit of a thing, though. I thought that the lemon tree was really nice, and it was a complete disaster as far as numbers goes, so you can never tell. Okay, now, the thing is, am I going to draw this in pen or am I going to draw it in pencil? Good question. I think, first of all, I'll show you my rough sketch. This is my rough sketch. Just going to move the camera over a little bit. A small sheep emergency. We've got the sheep grazing right beside the studio at the moment, and they sometimes get stuck in the fence. I'll show you. Comes in just trying to disentangle Cuddles from the fence. And there's Michael or Gabriel, I'm not sure which one, the cockerel. I might have to go and give her a hand. Oh, there we go. No harm done. We're using them as lawnmowers, really. The grass really needs eating, and they need grass. So, okay, so emergency over. Okay, so this is my original sketch, and I'm going to start. I think I better do it in pencil just in case, because you know it always goes wrong if you commit yourself. That one was done in ink, but since I'm going to paint this mostly, let's do it in pencil. So I'm going to start with the birdhouse that's in the middle. And if it goes wrong, I've got a useful eraser that and as I go along, I'm going to be putting my little birdies in place. So there's one little birdie. You can hear the cockerels outside, I think. Another little bird. And then we're going to put the tray in front here. So the sketch for this, once it's done and I've traced it, will be available on the website for free. You can just pop on over there and download as many of the sketches as you want. No cost. If I decide I need to change the way these birds are, you know, if I make a mistake, then I can do that afterwards, but I just want to get them in place at the beginning. So, There we are, there's those ones, and we have the pole coming down in the middle, like that. And then over here, another one. We give it some nice scalloped tiles on the roof. This reminds me of the south of France. And then we're going to have, obviously there's a hole there for the bird to go through, and we'll put a perch there. And I'm just going to rub that bit out, because we won't need that bit. I'll put a little bird here. We had a great tit crash into the door of the studio yesterday. Knocked himself out, in the sense of he became unconscious. So I went out, picked him up. It took, I suppose, about 5 minutes, and he came round and then he said, "Thank you," and off he flew. Perfectly fine. I must put some more of those bird silhouettes on the window though. Tends to happen in the spring. I think they're thinking of other things. They lose control of their flight path. Okay, so that's number 2. On the pole. And then up here, I was thinking I would put some nice big sunflowers. I wonder if you know why I'm painting sunflowers. Is that because it's the national flower of the Ukraine? Yes, it is. But they're also very interesting flowers, aren't they? They have very big leaves, or at least the ones we have in this part of the world do anyway. Which is nice, because that means we've got lots and lots of green that we can paint. And we'll make them a bit bigger than they really are, perhaps. Okay, and then the third house, we'll put that one here. Oops. And scalloped roof again, perhaps slightly different from the other one. And we've got to have a bird standing on top here. Sometimes it's easier to get the pose of the bird if you put the legs on first, sometimes. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll put another one here, perhaps, on this perch. Right, you see what I mean about the legs. You put the legs in first, and then you remember that they don't all sit on their bottoms when they're perching. They often have their legs. It sounds like they're having a party out there. They were all sitting on a picnic table a minute ago. I think I better put one on here. It's better be a small bird, hadn't it? Because let's just put a little one here. No, that's not right, right? Not that one again. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I don't think I like that hole. I think I want it going down a bit. Coming this way, perhaps. There we are. I had to find my this thing with the eraser in the end there is much better for rubbing out details that haven't quite worked. So then over this side we'll have another big sunflower. Put the leaves in first, perhaps. Creates a really nice background. It should do, or it could do. And then let's have the center of the sunflowers kind of ellipse because it's sort of leaning over. It always makes me think of Bill and Ben when I'm drawing sunflowers. Remember, English people my age will remember Bill and Ben and Little Weed. I don't know whether Little Weed was meant to be a daisy or a sunflower, but she had this kind of big face like that. And she was huge compared to the flower pot men. Do you know what's really cool about the internet? I really like this about YouTube. If you suddenly get the urge to hear the jingle to I'm a Cadbury's Fruit and Nutcase or something like that, or Bill and Ben, or Listen with Mother, or as you do when you start to get old, you want to listen to these things again one more time. You can just type it into YouTube, and there it is. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. So funny. Right, so then down here we had better have a few more slightly smaller sunflowers just to keep the theme going. But we'll do these ones really quite loosely, I think. And make it a fairly green sort of mood down here. Put another sunflower here. There we are. Don't know what that's going to look like when that's done, but we'll give it a try. And make the roof of the house a bit thicker. And then we have to think about what colour we're going to paint the birdhouses, because these colours are going to be obviously for the sunflowers and so on, but what colours are we going to choose for the birdhouses? Then we have to decide, are we going to ink this in? Are we going to do it in line and wash? Or are we going to paint it completely loosely? It's a very good question, because you'll get a very different look. If you go for the pure watercolor, it'll be much softer. If you go for the ink, you're obviously going to have a lot more impactful painting. I think I need another bird here. So there's a bit of a gap in the middle. Okay, so I am going to start with the painting now. I've decided I'm going to paint, not do line and wash. I'm going to do the painting first, and then if I feel it needs some sharpening up, I'll come in with some ink at the end and see. So I'm using, to start with, a size 7. This is a round synthetic brush from Drawwell, Japanese company, but any round brush would do as long as it's a good quality artist's one. And I'm going to start probably with the birds, I think, and I've got some reference material here telling me that there is such a thing as a bird with a yellow breast and a blue chest. That would probably be something remotely resembling a blue tit. I'm not going for accuracy here, but I'm just going to pop in some nice colours and let the imagination do the rest. So, yellow chest, I think the blue tit has a little bit of a dark line down the front, so we'll just indicate that to begin with. And then maybe we might have a robin down here, which is the one with the red front. And we give him a sort of golden brown back and tail. And then this one here could be a wren, which is a kind of a softer kind of brown. So I'm mixing that with quinacridone gold and indigo. So that gives me a sort of greenish brown colour, which will do nicely for that bird. And then maybe we'll go to a bit more quinacridone for this one up here. Make him a bit more yellowy. That could be a golden oriole, couldn't it? And a nice reddish brown down here, which is cadmium red with quinacridone. And then maybe we'll make this one a bluey colour. And what next? Maybe a nice yellow one here as well, perhaps. And perhaps another one with a red breast up the top here. Have I got them all? Yep, I think so. And maybe we'll put their legs in. And their beaks and their eyes with the pen. You can do these in as stylized a way as you want, really. You can just make them up. And you'll find every time you paint birds, they come out differently. Could put a bit of detail in using the pen if you want. The hardest thing about painting is getting started. You can end up with, what is it, Sean Cannell talks about analysis paralysis. Or shall I do this, or shall I do that, or shall I do the other? And actually what you need to actually do is just actually start. Right, so now I think probably we need to paint their houses. And I'm just wondering what colour to do them. If I mix a bit of cadmium with a bit of indigo, what am I going to get? sort of pinkish grey. Maybe that would do for the roof. Of one of them. So that's indigo and cadmium. And then maybe we want to do the main body of the box or the house in a soft blue, perhaps. And then I didn't talk about the paper that I'm using. This is a sheet of, I think this is Lavis Fidelis. I think this is Archie's Lavis Fidelis. But it could just as easily be Bockingford or Clairefontaine, Montval, Etival. I forgot to paint his tail, didn't I? Make him yellow. Oh, he seemed to have an insect on the paper. Okay, so that's the first layer of paint there for that particular one. And I want to paint the one in the middle in a brighter colour. I think I'm going to paint it yellow because we're going to have yellow on either side from the sunflower. So let's paint this in quinacridone gold. And then the roof in a brownish shade, like that. I'm going to just use a grey of some sort for the tray. Greyish green. Okay, and then, well, actually not quite okay, because I think we probably want a little bit more shadow there. And so we've got one blue, one yellow, and then perhaps the other one should be on the reddish side, perhaps. And we're still going to go for a greyish brown roof. I think, sort of something like that. And then perhaps the walls can be, because I did want to stick with these colours. You know, I could have gone off to my palette and sort out Potter's pink, for example. to do one of them, or Windsor Violet to do one of them. But I'm trying to, it's Lent, you know, so you have to give something up. So rather than giving up sweets, maybe I'm going to give up some of my colours. There's a thought. Okay. So there's the poles. And we will have to come back in with a little bit more shadow underneath the eaves of these houses, and it's still slightly damp, so it should bleed a little bit, which is a good thing. This one's quite damp, so we'll pop it in there. And don't fiddle with it too much, just let it do its thing. I see how that goes. You will want, obviously, more shadow down the side of the poles, like that. Keep the colour nice and loose. Okay, now I'm going to start on the sunflowers now, so I'm going to get a bigger brush. And I'm going to start with lemon yellow. And I'm going to mix some of the lemon. I'm going to do the centres first. I'm going to mix some lemon yellow with some quinacridone. And I'm going to put in the centre like that. Maybe I'll do that one too, since I've got such a lot of paint on the brush. But that's obviously going to have to be made a lot darker because they are. But just so that I can start them off. And then I'm going to go back to the lemon and put in the first layer of petals. And this is going to be really loose. I'm going to let the centre run out like that. And then we're going to go with some of the more cadmium-y yellow in there as well. And then some good strong quinacridone in the centre. And when that's a bit drier, we'll put some seeds in there and make that more textured. So then this one I'm going to do slightly differently. I'm going to come in with the darker yellow first. I'm a great believer in the fact that there's more than one way of doing everything. So I always try to use more than one technique when I'm doing anything like this. So put a little bit of red in that one. Maybe we'll put a bit of red in that one. Okay, so then lemon yellow down here, mixed with a bit of cadmium red. If you use a nice big brush, then you get a much more freedom in what you're doing. Now, having done those 4 sunflowers, I can see that here I should have put another one. I should have put, it would have been better had I put one here. So we will. And we'll start off with the centre. And then we'll go to the cadmium. Put in some nice, big, fat petals. Like that. And then perhaps a bit of red, like we did before. It's bleeding out nicely there. And maybe another one down here. And maybe a little bit of yellow down here too. We can pretend that there's one here just hiding. Now we might want to think about the sky at this point. So we might want to pop in some sky behind the birds here, and I'm not going to try to fill every little tiny scrap of white, so I'm just going to dash it in there a little bit so that it's kind of linking the whole thing together. The middle part there. And then what we can do is, again, more than one way of doing this, but what we could do is we can come in with the blue down here, where we know that we're going to put the leaves. And because this is, as I said, a loose background, we start with that. So we've got indigo, and we're going to pop in some indigo really loosely. And then we'll go with the cadmium yellow, maybe, and just and we'll just let that blend. So it's a kind of background. I'll drop in yellow to give an indication of the leaves, rather than painting them all individually. And then once this is dried, then we can come back in and indicate the shapes more precisely of some, just a few of the leaves. And in order to make it more interesting, I think we need some more yellow there. To make the whole painting a little bit more interesting, it's usually a good idea if you go from cool to warm. So this side would be more blue and this side would be more yellow. Okay, so now we have a very wet piece of paper and we're going to have to wait for that to dry because there's not much more we can do to it at the moment. So while it's still wet, I've mixed up a bit of a mixture of quinacridone gold, indigo and cadmium red, which gives me a brown. And I'm just going to drop in some dark browns around the edge of the sunflower. And it doesn't matter if it's still wet because I'm using quite a thick mixture, so it'll hold its own. Against the damp. And just keep that really sort of uneven. I think the centres of sunflowers change colour as they go along, don't they? So sometimes they appear to be brown and sometimes they appear to be green, which can be a bit confusing. But we're going to make ours brown. I suppose that's when they're riper. Okay, so this is now completely dry, and I'm going to put in now some of the stems of some of these sunflowers, and I've mixed up a sort of offish kind of green with indigo and lemon yellow and a touch of quinacridone, and we're going to just use that in various different ways to just drop in some leaves and some shapes for the stems and some shapes for the leaves as well. So kind of emphasising what's already there and adding different amounts of colour in here and there, just keeping it loose. And as we go along, we can intensify some of the flowers if we want. Sometimes you might want to just build up the petals on one side of the flower and leave the other side as it is, for example. And sometimes you might want to put some golden colour in along with some yellow. It's just a matter of finding your way, really, and letting the whole thing kind of develop. Something that you can do, which often has a good effect, is to just touch the edge of a piece that you've painted with a wet brush and let the colour bleed in one or two places. So like that. Just let it bleed a bit. You have to trust the ability of the watercolour to behave itself. On the side, it's going to be a little bit bluer. That's always a good idea to have warmer colours on one side and cooler colours on the other side of the painting. And then we're going to definitely come in and add to the yellow, make these sunflowers even brighter. And then when we're coming down here to the bird boxes, bird houses, I'm going to want to intensify the colour a bit. So it's up to you how you do it. And we could put a few little seeds on here. We could say that was corn, I suppose, couldn't we? A little bit of shadow underneath. Put something over here for these ones. And this one here, let's put a little bit of blue, green under the roof. Oh, this one hasn't got any legs. Forgot about him, didn't we? And okay, so over here. And now we need to strengthen the yellow on these ones. We want to put something to cover up the pencil lines for a start, but also just to make them look more complete. I'm just lightening up centres of these and slightly changing the shapes a little bit. When you're painting loose, it doesn't mean you're painting necessarily fast, although it might look like it, but it actually can take quite a long time to complete a painting, which then at the end seems to be quite haphazard and slapdash, but it actually wasn't really. And again, I'm going to have to let this dry and put some green in behind here so that the birdhouse stands out. And then I'm going to take the edging off and see whether I want to do anything with the pen. Okay, so this is dry, and now at this point I'm going to have to bravely take the tape off, because with this ugly green tape around the outside of the painting, you can't see what you've done. So you need to get rid of that for now, so that you can look at the whole thing independent of the influence that this green tape is having on your visual cortex. So we get rid of that. It's one good reason for using neutral coloured tape, but I didn't think of that. So I'm going to have to bear that in mind next time. Too much green is not good for anything. Ugh, horrible colour green. Anyway, that's gone. And immediately you can see the picture a little bit better. And I'm kind of thinking, well, I could carry on painting this and improving it that way, but something I really feel I want to do at the moment is to sharpen up the shape of the petals on the sunflower, which tend to be a little bit pointy. So I'm going to come in with, this is a light brown felt tip ink or whatever, and I'm just going to do some of that, and then in conjunction with that we will then have more idea of how to vary the yellow on the petals, and also how to improve the brown, which I'm making because it's Lent. I'm making my brown with quinacridone gold and indigo and a little bit of red. And as you see, you can do it. It is possible. Let me just strengthen that centre to that sunflower there. And have a few bits coming down like that. And then maybe this stem up here. I'm going to darken that a bit. There's a lot of painting in this in this subject, quite a lot here, and I think I'm probably going to be running out of time soon. Maybe we'll do the same up here as well. Just emphasising some of the lines. for the petals. And then we'll come back in with that brown, made from cadmium red and quinacridone gold and indigo. And of course, once you've started, you have to continue. You can't just do a couple of them. So I'm going to come over here now. Sometimes putting in some line, a little bit of line, it gives you a little bit more confidence as to where to put the paint. If you know what I mean. So we'll come in a little bit with the pen just to put some details on. Some loose details, I think. Quite like the light brown pen rather than black at this point. You can come into the birds again, and improve their shape a little bit if you want. I think his eye was a little bit too far back on that one. Never mind, let's make him a little bit darker. And you can see already it's starting to sort of sharpen up a little bit. definitely best if you allow your hand to be a little bit loose as far as control goes. So I'm sort of holding it kind of loosely and going a little bit up the pen so there's more movement. And the most important part is the birds really in the centre, so you don't necessarily want to do all of the sunflowers in outline. And it's up to you really how much of the, this one needs something, how much of the greenery you do. I might come in with a bit more green. And maybe we'll put some veins in some of the leaves and some shadows on some of the stems. But again, we're keeping it really loose, so none of it is realistic, just colour. And in some places you might want to sharpen up the shape of the leaves using watercolour, the petals using watercolour perhaps, but really that's not the most important thing about the sunflowers, is it? So there's the final painting. I hope you enjoyed watching me do that, and if you did, give us a like and subscribe, turn on notifications, and you can get the sketch for free on our website, Diane Antone, so just pop on over there and you can download that and many others that we've done over the last year or so. And so yeah, so I will say goodbye now. Have a lovely evening or afternoon or morning or whatever it is where you are, and I'll see you again soon. So bye bye from me and from all the little birds around our bird tables. Bye everybody, bye bye.